Hello, all you queers and sluts, and welcome to Queer and Loathing, the only podcast. I'm your host, Mel, and with me are my co-hosts,
Brett,
Samantha,
and today we're going to talk more about Twilight.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
It's happening.
It's still what we're talking about. So today I really want us to talk about the source material.
Yeah.
The books, the movies, the actors, the directors, the color grading, the wigs. We're going to talk about it all.
I'm so ready for this one, guys. I really am. Not to imply that I wasn't ready for the last one, but I wasn't.
So let's, because we actually didn't really talk about this in the last Twilight episode, what did you guys do to prepare for us talking about Twilight?
Yeah, so I watched all of the movies, and I watched the first one twice. Not paying rapt attention necessarily to all of them. I maybe didn't give them all my full undivided attention. But yeah, so I watched all five. I bought a 5-movie collection DVD of the Twilight Saga.
Filled with special
$10.
features, right?
Filled with special features, such as the 5 Twilight films. No chapter selection, no subtitles, no nothing. It's just the 5 movies over 2 discs. But yeah, I don't regret buying it, actually.
So wait, you watched Twilight and then
Twilight.
Again.
Yes.
Immediately after again.
Basically.
Okay.
Like a few days later. And then I watched the rest of them like over the next few days. And I did not read any of the books.
Since you said you were in high school and you read New Moon and was like, I'm done with this shit.
Yes.
Okay. Sam?
Yeah, I did a lot more than I expected. Well, before I knew we were going to be doing Twilight, I had been listening to this podcast called Passages. So it's on this podcast, 2 people going through Twilight and just, it's fun. Check it out. So I'd already been preparing, listening to that. And since I had listened to the first book, I was like, well, I'm just going to listen to all the books. So I got through New Moon, I got through Eclipse, and I'm on Breaking Dawn. And the movies, I was like, let me watch Twilight, let me get through them, and that's been my whole week. My whole week has been Twilight nonstop. If I'm not watching one of the movies, I am listening to one of the books. And this ends tonight.
What has it done? Yeah. What has it done to your brain?
This ends tonight has such a dramatic finality to it.
Like, I didn't, because I was
The madness must end, Sam.
Yes, it must. I am like 2 hours away from being done with the book, and I am probably an hour away from being done with Breaking Dawn Part 2, and I've enjoyed my journey. But it ends tonight. This is when I'm done. And yeah, that's how I prepared.
When we had floated the idea of doing Twilight, I was very clear that I was not going to rewatch all these movies again. I had seen them all, and then several years ago, a friend of mine and I thought it would be really fun and funny for just the 2 of us to do a Twilight marathon. So all 5 movies in sequence, all at once. And
In a day?
In one day. And we had our shirts made. I had my Team Emmett shirt. She had it.
Feature runtime is approximately 10 hours and 9 minutes for the 5 movies.
But I will say, I do a Lord of the Rings extended edition, 12-hour marathon every year. And it's a different thing.
Yeah, we do, because we attend that every year, and we never have an issue with getting through the movies or.
If anything, as I watch the Lord of the Rings movies, I get more hyped as I go. It feels like a slow crescendo. Whereas we started and we had one of those ranch dressing veggie platters and some chips. And we started out and we were both very peppy, and the first movie is just so fun. And then the second movie happened and the vibe just started dying. Yeah. And by the third movie, we were nonverbal. Just sitting there, slack-jawed, lying down on the couch. Remember those, this is your brain on weed, commercials where the woman would just be, flattened?
Yes,
so flat.
Just boneless.
Yeah, that was, me. by halfway through Eclipse in the movies.
That makes sense.
And then Breaking Dawn Part 1 happened, and I got, like, fully re-energized.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I really like that one, not because I think it's good, but because I think it's insane, and it is, like, a horror movie. And then 4 happened, and we started, snoozing again until that last fight scene. And it was really painful. And I won't say it's the most painful Twilight thing I've ever done, but it was pretty bad. No, the most painful Twilight thing I've ever done
I'd like to hear it.
is read Midnight Sun.
Yes. Okay.
I guess we did cover that.
Midnight Sun took me about, I want to say 3 years to read. Like, the level of difficulty of reading this book, I would say, is akin to reading James Joyce's Ulysses.
I was literally going to say Ulysses.
And interestingly enough, it was my own odyssey. Through this book. I started reading it with like...
You're fucking stupid.
I started reading it. I was like working at this place that I hated working at. And I had one coworker there I liked. And every lunch break, she would come into my office and I would do dramatic readings of Midnight Sun to her, like using voices and like accents for each character. And then like I quit working there. And
but not Midnight Sun.
Well, it sat on my desk for like a while. And then I was like, that was fun. I'm going to keep reading it. But if you're not like reading it like to entertain another person, you're just reading it to entertain yourself, it's rough. Can I read you guys a sample of what I think just captures Midnight Sun? Because I mentioned, I was asking for permission, but I was just going to do it anyway.
Like, it's going to happen.
Because I have it in front of me. So you may remember there's a scene in Twilight where Edward takes Bella out into the meadow, and he's going to show her the skin of the killer.
This is the skin of the killer, Bella.
Right. I don't even think that line is in here, but so there's a moment where he's like seeing her in the meadow, and he's terrified in the book because Alice says there's like a 70-30 chance he's just going to eat her. But he's going to do it anyway. He sucks.
I did not realize
What page are you on, just to be clear?
I'm on page... So the meadow scene is page 429. There are about 3 chapters that I think take place in this just one moment.
Whoa.
So there's a scene where he is trying to not kill her.
Skin of the killer.
And this is how he calms himself. Okay. First, I gathered information. I triangulated the exact location of the birds I could hear, and then, by their calls, identified each one's genus and species. I analyzed the irregular splash that revealed life in the stream, and after equating the water displaced with the size of the fish, deduced the most likely variety. Categorized the nearby insects. Unlike the more developed species, insects ignored my kind, as they would a stone, by the speed of their wing movements and the elevation of their flight, or the tiny clicking sound of their legs against the soil. As I continued to classify, I added calculation. If there were currently 4,913 insects in the area of the meadow, which was roughly 11,035 square feet, how many insects on average would exist in the 1,400 square miles of the Olympic National Park? What if insect populations dropped 1% for each 10 feet of elevation? I brought in my head a topographic map of the park and started computing the numbers.
It's like diamonds.
And that's just a moment in the mind of Edward. I will say, I was Team Edward before reading this book, and I still think he's maybe better than Jacob, but like this book is maybe the most insane thing. That's him like trying not to nut, Like he just starts calculating.
That's him like thinking about baseball or whatever.
Yes, this is him thinking about like bowling pins or whatever to like not eat her. And I think that's just like a great example of like how unlikable Edward is in this book, where he's just like literally just calculating how many insects are in a square foot when he's supposed to be having this like beautiful romantic moment with her, which in the movie is like 5 minutes of this sequence, and it just keeps going on and on.
I'm shocked. That reading honestly shocked me. I really just can't believe that.
It's all like that, baby.
Oh my God. But like, who's that for?
I cannot honestly tell you. I don't think there's a single person who wanted this book the way it is. Because, like, it starts out, like, kind of funny because he's like, ooh, humans, they're so annoying. High school's hell. I'm so bored. And he's, like, annoying. And he just seems like I don't know, like a peacoat wearing smirker, which he kind of is in the movies. But in this book specifically, he comes off as a psychotic lunatic who makes me fear for Bella's safety. Like, his reason in this book for watching her sleep every night is he's convinced that she's so clumsy and unlucky that, like, a meteor may hit her house. And he just needs to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right.
And like, Stephanie Meyer was like, this will be a good book for people to read. And, like, nothing happens in this book. Because I think...
Did all the editors at this publishing house die? That's my question. It's one thing to write it. It's another thing to, like, publish it in its existing form with shit like that in it. Who's like... My favorite part of the Twilight Saga is when Edward calculated the insects per square foot of Olympic National Park.
In the most romantic scene that people, like, love from the original movie.
Right. Right, like a very famous scene.
Excruciating detail about what's going on in his head that is not romantic or charming. And that's literally 95% of this book is just living in Edward's, like, twisted, miserable mind. And him just, like, constantly just deciding between whether or not he wants to, like, kill himself or just, like, calculate more math or, like, eat Bella.
Wow. Well, my condolences to those editors' families. That's so sad.
Legitimately don't recommend this book for anyone to read. Like,
I barely made it through that quote that you read out loud. I mean, I could. There's no danger of me picking up this book.
I didn't get anywhere near. You're, like, halfway through. Is that halfway?
About
400?
Yeah,
pages?
This is about smack dab in the middle of the book.
I got 100 pages in, and it was...
After that, he literally starts talking about, like, songs that he had heard in the last century.
Oh, great.
Anything good?
Let's see. Peculiar family lullabies lisped by children in their cradles as I ran by in the night. Discarded attempts by the music students writing their theater project. So she didn't even want to, like, mention her real song.
Boo. I was hoping it'd be like...
Well, it's all about, like, he's so smart. Listen to him calculate this. And, like, he's so cultured. Listen to him.
He only listens to classical music.
Right. So
cultured. Yeah, currently listening to Claire de Lune.
Yep.
Which I do actually find that very beautiful.
It is nice.
That song.
Well, he's a fucking loon.
He is.
That's my takeaway.
He puts the Claire, he puts the Loon, he puts the Claire and Claire the Loon.
Oh my god.
Sorry, I got distracted because I was too busy calculating.
Yeah, sorry. You need to go back to calculating how many bugs per, like, elevation point.
How many
or
bugs
whatever.
are buzzing on my microphone while we were recording our last episode?
0.
It was not 0. Oh, also, I wanted to say something just about Twilight in general that occurred to me. Is that I think why it was so popular with teens is, like, I think what I wrote is it takes all of the implicit sexiness about vampires from classical literature. There's a bit of a threat, like he's probably, like, older and more established because he's, like, immortal or whatever. There's an element of danger, but also, like, you get to be special because if, like, he's in love with you, then it's like, oh, well, he's not sucking my blood. He loves me. It's like those other girls that aren't good enough for him that, like, but it takes all of that sort of, like, so that implicit, like, you know, sexiness, whatever, and makes it explicit in the most, like, tacky Mormon way possible.
Yeah.
It takes all that subtext, makes it text. Very clunky version.
I do wonder if it's like they tell Mormons that if you're getting too horny to just start counting bugs. Because that just seems like...
I wouldn't be surprised.
And then another thing I did to prepare for this is I was like, yeah, I'm not going to watch these fucking movies again. But I did watch the first Twilight movie with the commentary track. That is Robert Pattinson, Kristen Stewart, and Catherine Hardwicke.
Yes.
And
we'll talk about Catherine Hardwicke.
Well, let's do it. Because, like, That was one of the most worthless commentary tracks I've ever listened to in my life.
I believe it.
Got so bored that I just started talking to my friend. And I usually love a commentary track, but like the things that you love about commentary tracks is you're like learning interesting things about the movie. And all that I learned was that Kristen Stewart is like self-conscious about having played this role. Robert Pattinson has zero respect for this movie or Catherine Hardwicke. And Catherine Hardwicke desperately wants these much more famous people to like her and is like horny.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I got out of it.
Horny in general?
Well, because she would keep being like, ooh, Robert, your pecs are really showing in this scene. It's like, bitch, you like directed this. Like, that's your choice. And he'd be like, haha, no one would like this kid in his pea coat. And it's like, you keep making fun of the movie with the director sitting next to you.
Well, it's hard not to, because I gotta say, I think Catherine Hardwicke is such a hack, and I think she's such a terrible director. Not that I've seen a bunch of her work, but Twilight, just like the faux artsy shot choices that are like poorly framed.
The blue-green.
Like the color grading is terrible. She did an episode of Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, and
Which
it was
one
like
did she do? The one with the lotion?
No, I kind of liked the lotion one.
Which one did she do?
She did, it might have been Dreams in the Witch House.
Dude, I don't even remember that one.
Yeah, it was, I just remember thinking it was so bad and being like, because I was also like, who is this? Aren't they supposed to be like established horror directors? And I was like, oh, it's the lady who made Twilight, of course. I think she accidentally made a good movie, 13,
yeah,
if you've heard of that, which was co-written with one of the stars of Twilight. Nikki Reed, who plays
Rosalie.
I was like, hot girl. Yeah, so that one's supposed to be good. I haven't seen it. That
Oh.
one with Evan Rachel
Wait,
Wood.
you haven't seen 13?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I watched that at the exact right age to watch that.
But based on the rest of her career, I'm like, I think she accidentally made a good movie. That's my theory.
I mean, I think
Twilight's fucking bad. That first one it's entertaining. Like, I like to watch it, but I'm just watching it like, I can't, like, I just think it's so poorly done.
Well, it's just devoid of, like,
It's
style.
awful.
It's devoid of, like, talent.
Well, and like the leads' performances get so much better in the other movies, but like Kristen Stewart is so bad in that first movie. Mm-hmm. But she's not even bad in the role in the other movies. It's literally just like she's so bad in Twilight, the original Twilight.
She would agree with you. According to the commentary track, she was...
That was my thought. I was like, oh my God. Because I was like, I thought she was like okay in these, but like she's terrible in this. And then I started New Moon and I was like, oh no, she's totally fine. It's just that first one that I'm like, how did this happen?
Well, it's like,
Catherine Hardwicke, I'm not a fan. I'm just shocked that she has a directing career.
To watch a director's commentary track, and I know that like she shouldn't have been on the same commentary track as the two stars who have like contempt for the movie.
Right.
But like she had nothing interesting to say about like any of the scenes. She's like, oh yeah, we like had you standing on this thing because that's what I thought would like, look good for this shot. Like, thanks.
God.
What a revelation, Catherine. Thank you for that interesting tidbit.
Oh, yeah. And I also have written in my notes, Hardwicke is such an awful director, but her ambition, artsy shots, etc., makes for a very entertaining bad movie.
Yes.
So many weird choices.
Well, that's what I say. It's a
very entertaining. I do like to watch it. It's just bad.
It's what I would call like a fun bad movie.
Agreed. Where I don't really feel that way about the rest of the series. They also have very bad, silly elements, but it's not the same. The other ones are like kind of real movies of varying degrees of quality.
Yeah.
Where the first one is just like actually bad. But
I can't disagree. Yeah. Like I think it's probably the one that I find the most rewatchable because it's just like, I don't know, it's like drinking a shot of Pepto.
Oh.
It's just soothing. It goes down. Good for your tummy.
Oh.
Huh.
Like my own personal brand of heroin.
No, that's very interesting.
I need to change my ad.
Shot of Pepto. Yeah, let's see. I took so many notes about this series, you guys. I don't know why. I've like, this is the longest note in like my entire notes app. It goes, no, look, like,
oh Lord,
it's so long. I took so many notes.
Should publish that on like JSTOR.
I should. Oh, and then my pet theory is that the color grading is so terrible in this one, and which carries over into some of the other ones, because I'm like, Kristen Stewart is so pale that to make the vampires like more pale ruined the color grading and the makeup for it. Because, like, Carlisle's first appearance is such a jump scare in that first movie because his makeup is like
cakey.
Yeah, so it's like straight up like
cakey.
Yeah, it's like this like pancake, like super white makeup, and it is so horrible looking. Because I'm like, he's so handsome, but I hate looking at his face when it's in that like makeup.
Because he is a handsome person.
He is,
but that makeup and the hair of it all for most.
As the movies go on, the makeup gets less vampire-y. Like, they just start looking like normal people. Like, they don't do the shining glittery in the sun anymore, which I think is kind of sad, but I get it.
Me too, but it's probably way cheaper to not do it.
They get rid of that. They get rid of the cakey white makeup. And
which that was good that they got rid of that.
But then inversely, the hair just gets crazier.
Right?
Well, that was a note I definitely had. I was like, where is it? Because Renesmee, the child, when she's born, and I'm like, where's this 5-year-old coming from with her like salon blowout?
She's like a bully
playing in a field, right? She's literally got these perfect like beachy curls.
Rosalie maybe
Rosalie.
That.
Ooh,
but it's like
good theory. I could see that.
Yeah,
famously like Nikki. What's her name?
Nikki Reed.
Nikki Reed like has extremely dark, thick hair.
Oh yeah,
and they bleached her fucking hair for the first movie, and her hair just like fell out. So by the second movie, they didn't just put her in a wig. They just started putting everybody in wigs.
Let's all be in wigs.
But like they didn't have like a gay on set.
They didn't have wig budget.
I mean, once you take the wig pill and you start to see all the terrible wigs in film and TV, it's just shocking. There's so many terrible wigs in like very high budget productions. And I don't know why.
What's so weird about it is it's like you can tell that in the first movie a lot of it is their real hair. And so there are people in this movie who they could have just used their real hair. But instead they opted for an extraneous wig that isn't like applied well.
No, not convincing.
No. I don't get it. It's weird.
I also
and I would find it important. So
yes.
It's distracting.
But I think I did like Alice's hair in the last 2 movies. It got really pixie and kind of flattened down, and I really like that one.
Oh, I like it when it's like flared out like the Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park.
Twilight.
She had like anime hair, I feel.
Yeah. Like I think there was like a lot of teenage girls in the late aughts failing to try to achieve Alice hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, I was so over Alice and Jasper like right from the jump. And then especially the more we learned about Rosalie and Emmett, I'm like,
they're way better.
Could we have switched the screen time? Like I would much rather have seen like I was like, why does Rosalie have nothing to do when like she's the interesting one?
Yes.
Like she's the good character and has good, relatable, like reasonable conflict with like not with Bella, but with Bella becoming a vampire. Mm-hmm. I'm like, it's good tension for the characters. It's more interesting. She's just more fun for me to watch on screen. I like Rosalie, but I find Alice so annoying.
I'm picking up my copy of Midnight Sun again. They ruin Rosalie's character in this book because they say the reason she's so bitchy is because she's jealous that Edward likes Bella, which is stupid and weird. Because
he was supposed to be a mate for her or something?
Yeah, so she was made to be like his mate because he was like a lonely sad boy. And then Edward just wasn't interested in her. And it's like made clear in the book ad nauseum, like everything, that she doesn't actually like him, but she wants everyone to like her. And they just make her even more ridiculous and bitchy.
I hate that.
I hate it.
Oh, I hate it because I actually really like the way they develop her character. At least in the movies, I really like the way they develop her character.
Well, like her reasons for being like misanthropic and sort of only interested in being with her family makes sense with like the background of her character, and her distaste for Bella's like fervent and freakish desire to become a vampire as soon as possible.
It makes perfect sense, and I like get where she's coming from, and I'm like, she's the only one who like seems reasonable. And I like Emmett, like he's just like a nice like
Team Emmett.
Yeah, Mel has a Team Emmett shirt on currently.
Well, it's also just
I liked Emmett a lot, and I'm like, we got like so much Jasper and Alice screen time, and I'm like, switch it.
Jasper sucks. Alice is annoying.
Exactly.
And like Emmett, there's so many like weird things, like going back to the memes. Like there's so many memes of like the first scene when he walks into the cafeteria and he's just holding a bag filled with hard-boiled eggs. If you rewatch your third time this year, you will notice, because what's his name? Kellen Lutz or whatever. He, I guess, just had a bag of eggs. And then I don't think Catherine Hardwicke was going to tell anyone not to do anything. So he just walked in holding a bag of eggs, which works perfectly for the character if he's like, humans, what do they eat? Maybe a bag of eggs.
Yes.
And just is like, has them at lunch.
Right. What would a muscular human eat? Protein. Bag of eggs. You can kind of see why.
Just a giant gallon Ziploc bag filled with peeled hard-boiled eggs.
My own personal brand of heroin.
And then there's also like scenes in I think it's the first movie, but maybe it happens throughout. But it's like whenever they're driving up on their cars, for no reason that's ever explained, Emmett is just standing in the back of the car, like holding
just having a good time.
The like roof of the truck.
Yes.
And he's just like smiling like a golden retriever. And he's great.
I love it. Yeah. I'm very much like, yes, I very much like Rosalie and Emmett.
They're the best. And I think the Zoomers would massively agree with you. Although they love Alice because, of course they do, because she's so like gay coded to them. But Rosalie is the queen.
Okay.
Right? Like the iconic cosplay of her in the wedding dress, all bloody. And then Emmett. Great. And Emmett's not problematic, which Jasper is.
Right.
Because the Zoomers have no time for a Confederate soldier.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not interested.
He's not on my favorite characters list.
Also, some of the wigs they put him in are so atrocious.
Right?
Atrocious. So bad I can't even say the word.
we got the feeling.
We did.
We were with
the
you.
disdain and disgust.
I will say that like
evident.
2 of his wigs are atrocious and one of his wigs is atrocious.
This has been Wig Talk on Queer and Loathing.
Let's talk about the cast.
Yeah, I mean, considering that these movies get roasted for the acting so much, I mean, there is a bad actor in one of the leads, but it's Taylor Lautner. He is actually just not good in these.
Nope.
And he hasn't been really good in anything.
I'm not a hater of his at all, right? But I just I just don't think he is a very talented actor.
There's a lot of people who are bad in these movies because the dialogue they're given and the direction they're given.
Yeah, he's not the only bad performance, but like he's maybe the one who I would say is a bad actor.
Well, we'll talk about the actors again, but we need to take an ad break. Okay. It's really important.
It is.
Right. So, when I was watching Twilight, there was one surprising thing that kept jumping out to me. I think it jumped out to you too, Brett. And when Charlie referred to it as vitamin R, I had to look it up, and apparently it's real. So this episode is brought to you by Rainier Beer. Ever wonder how to survive those endless gloomy Forks evenings? Crack open a Rainier Beer and join Bella, Edward, and Jacob in Forks' favorite pastime. 2 out of the 3 won't drink it, but Jacob might. So, sparkle with Rainier Beer and a shot of Pepto-Bismol.
One of the reasons they cast, what's his name? Billy Burke or whatever?
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the reasons they cast him is because, I know this from the commentaries, one of the few interesting things that Catherine Hardwicke said was because he was local and knew that beer.
Oh.
And like called it by
Vitamin
R or whatever. Like literally, like that was one of the reasons. And she's so stupid and talentless, I believe her.
This is now a Catherine Hardwicke hate podcast. I steered us in this direction and I stand by it.
This podcast was brought to you by Vitamin R and also like spitefully taken from you by Catherine Hardwicke. Remember what they took from you. This ends tonight. And we're back. I hope that everybody, I mean, I don't think that they have that beer here where we live.
Beer Rainier.
What
is it called?
But they have plenty of like shitty beer that was made as like, I don't know, an alternative to drinking water. If you're a working class dude with a mustache.
You wouldn't be caught dead drinking vitamin W water.
Oh. It would
I
be
really was curious.
Thank you.
Vitamin,
I am the comedic talent of the podcast.
Vitamin Natty Light or like Keystone, that shit. But not Bud Light.
No, certainly not. I mean, I buy it, but just so I can shoot at it.
Killer.
So, okay, but I want to go back into talking about the cast, because I think, like, one of the more interesting things about this movie, and we talked about this in our last episode about Twilight, so check that out, is there was such a cultural backlash to the movie, like, in response to its popularity, which is so weird and annoying. But it seems like both Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart, I mean, fair, because they were tied to it for 5 movies, and they are stupid and bad. But, like, the two of them have gone off to become, like, indie darlings.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like, I get annoyed when people will say they're bad
award-winning, actors. Like, they are both, like, award-winning, very established actors now.
Who, like, actually really good directors like to work with.
Yes. Mm-hmm. They work with, like, auteurs now.
Yeah, I saw the Crimes of the Future with her.
And I loved her in that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, like...
And she played Princess Diana.
Yeah. She's a good actor, and Robert Pattinson is also clearly an extremely good actor.
Yes.
And so it's just, like... I think people are doing it less now, especially because Robert Pattinson is sort of, like, mainstream... indie popular guy.
Yeah, he's like film bro popular.
Yeah, like because of The Lighthouse and
like
all these
A24.
Nolan,
Yeah.
Totally.
I think they also really just had to not be together for many reasons, but also, I mean, it helped to like separate them from their characters more.
That's true.
Not that that's the reason they broke up, but I'm sure it's a benefit.
Was it not?
No, I don't know.
Who can even remember what happened?
She cheated on him like a dog. Unquote, Donald Trump.
We have Donald Trump here in the studio with us today.
Another funny one is Anna Kendrick.
Oh, yeah.
Being like a small but named character who is in all the movies.
Yeah, basically.
Becoming so huge after these movies.
She was a breakout star of Twilight. I remember everyone.
That's true.
And then she was in that movie? Up?
Up in the air.
Not up in the air. Not up. No added.
Well, the acapella one was like way bigger.
Pitch Perfect.
Pitch Perfect was huge.
Yes, it was. But yeah, and she made my list of favorite characters.
Yeah. Oh, she's so funny in this.
Anna Kendrick's. Well, and also she just like seems like a real person in a sea of like weird, stilted, awkward people. And I really appreciate that.
They're all delivering their lines. And then she's like acting.
Yes, very much so. And it's so apparent in the first movie, especially. Although I will say, I think Robert Pattinson did a good job, even in the first movie, of kind of selling this ridiculous character. He had a lot of terrible material to work with, but I felt like he really gave it his all to try to make sense of this awful character, and I thought he was pretty successful.
And we now know what's actually going on in the mind of Edward at any given moment.
Lots of bug math.
His sort of like nonchalant sort of bad boy thing that he does in the first movie I actually quite like. But you have all these actors that are either just like trying to think of some way to make this character, I don't know, compelling, interesting to watch. And then some people, like I would say probably Kristen Stewart in that first movie, who's just barely getting those lines out in a way that's like...
It's painful to watch for me, especially as someone who like considers himself kind of a fan of like modern day Kristen Stewart. It was kind of upsetting to watch that first one. It was like, wow, she really is bad in this. And I don't blame her, but it still sucks.
Yeah. And all the excessive biting of lip, which I know was a lot in the books, but I feel like it just read
Doesn't translate well.
You're being told to continuously bite your lip throughout everything.
Or maybe that was like the only line on the sheet she was given to describe her character. It's like she looks around nervously and bites her lip and tosses her hair, and just like not a lot to work with for her in that first one. But I agree with you, Brett, that by the last movies, a lot of the actors have sort of come into their own more. Maybe they're getting better direction.
Yes.
Taylor Lautner's just kind of terrible.
Yeah.
And even he gets a little better as it goes. Maybe just more confident. I don't know if it's like...
And they're getting older as actors.
Right.
Because they're pretty young in the first
That's
one.
true. Well, him especially. Taylor Lautner was like an actual teenager.
Yeah. Kristen Stewart was in school for the first one. They had to like... They were like doing it in the school where she was like going to school at that time. Like they like set her up to take classes at that high school.
Oh, wow.
Like something like that. Again, this is from the commentary track that was awful and I don't recommend.
I trust you.
But I do want to say that it's very funny what happens with Jacob because I have a story I want to tell.
Okay.
So, like, in the second movie is when they start really introducing him as this love interest, right? And he has, he still has the long hair in the beginning and then he cuts it off. But he just, like, gets super ripped. And if you ever watch it again, which, again, I don't know if I recommend watching New Moon, but it's like every time he enters the scene, he's just, like, shirtless walking out of the woods. And then when he exits the scene, he just walks back into the woods.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
He's a cryptid well before he becomes a werewolf. He's already just like a natural born cryptid.
Well, in the first movie, it's seen with him like hitching a ride with his dad, like in a car. But yeah, it's like in the second movie where he's just like wandering out of the woods, and it's like, man,
shirtless and in jorts.
Yes,
there's endless jorts.
But when I went and saw New Moon in theaters, because I remember this vividly, and I was at a midnight showing, and I was in like the second row. And I had my friends to my right, and I had a younger girl to my left, and she must have been like 12. And I was probably like 18 or 19 or whatever. And the first time where Jacob walks out of the woods shirtless, she went, oh. Yeah, that noise, like her whole body got into it. And I've never seen someone like hit puberty in person until that moment. And I hope to never see it again, but it was like a guttural. Once was good enough. Like that girl was Team Jacob. Like in that moment, she became a woman. And Taylor Lautner did it for her. But it was like a jump scare for me because it was like so loud right next to me. And then I was like not going to be comfortable the rest of the movie.
No, you can't. There's no coming back from that.
Shout out for that now adult woman.
Can we talk about the casting downgrade? That is Victoria.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk about it. Started with, what's her name? Rochelle Lefebvre?
They originally did want Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yes, I
and
saw
that's
that.
what happened.
She turned it down.
She had some kind of scheduling conflict.
Okay.
So she turned it down. And then for the second movie, they just brought her back in.
No, it's still Rochelle in the second movie.
Is it?
Yes, they only recast her. It's only
for
Bryce Dallas Howard in Eclipse. It just doesn't work. Like, it's so, I don't know, it's so jarring. She is just like, I don't think Bryce Dallas Howard is like a bad actor, but that type of role is so outside of her wheelhouse. She's very much like protagonist lady. Like that she's more of like plays good guys or maybe like a bitchy character. But like the sort of primal like rage energy, like Rochelle Lefebvre really brought that and is like very, very good to watch on screen. And I actually really like Victoria until I just don't anymore. And Bryce Dallas Howard just does not deliver for me.
And it's a shame because that's the movie where like she's the main villain.
Yes.
And gets the most screen time. And it's like,
and apparently like she wasn't like Rochelle Lefebvre wasn't even fired. She just like read that she'd been replaced in like a trade magazine or something.
Oh, that's so shitty.
Yeah. Like they didn't even bother to fire her.
Well, she's been vindicated in that like basically everyone agrees that she was a better Victoria.
Because she was really, really good. I really enjoyed her performance. And then I was also annoyed in, I think, Breaking Dawn, how they just, like, had another Victoria. Another vampire who's like, you killed my lover, and now I'm mad, and I'm seeking my revenge. And I'm like, you already did that plot in the last movie.
You really do stink.
Like, why kill Victoria in Eclipse if then you still have someone with that same motivation in the next one?
Well, I know the answer.
Keep it as Victoria.
The answer is they broke up a book into 2 movies because that's what everyone was doing. Yep. Oh, there's a Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2. There's a Hunger Games, like whatever that third book was called, Mockingjay.
Yes.
Yeah, Mockingjay Part 1 and 2.
Yep.
So we have to have Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2, which I will say there is no reason that needed to be 2.
No, and the thing is, the highs of those movies are like the best in the series. And if it had been one movie, it would be just so far and away the best, I think. But like, there's so much filler and padding.
I don't care about anything that has to do with those werewolves.
That's what I was going to say. Literally, I was like, oh, like, Part 2 is fun. And like, I'm enjoying like Bella as a werewolf. Okay, Pastor Brett was wrong. I obviously meant vampire. But while we're here, let me state that Queer and Loathing Podcast does not stand With past Brett, we only stand with future Brett. And only when he's right. When she's like hunting and like there's that insane rock climbing scene where she's like trying to like eat that rock climber, and I absolutely love it. And I was literally like, yes, and I was like, this is what I've been waiting for.
Yes.
I was like, this is what I want.
I love her as a vampire.
Me too.
She's so great. And she's so gorgeous. It's like upsetting.
Yes, I agree.
Because she's like one of the prettiest people ever.
Yes.
And then when they're like, okay, vampires have to be extra hot, they just glam her up so hard. And you had just seen her turn into like
a skeleton zombie.
I never see movies, like maybe a little bit more now, but I feel like for the longest time, movies didn't have the balls to make their female leads look like shit when they're supposed to look like shit. Like
that's true. Like maybe it's like some Dark Circles or something, and that's might be the most you'll get. But they really made Kristen Stewart look like she was actually dying.
Yes.
In a way that was kind of upsetting to look at.
It's
life
horrific.
Being sucked out.
Yeah.
She's being like
Eaten
malnourished from the inside out.
Because she has like a half vampire parasite that like has her drinking human blood so that the baby won't eat her. Like she's just like, here, take this blood so you're not drinking my blood.
It's horrific.
Yes.
And I love it.
Me too.
I love that whole
like,
part.
all that stuff is great. But like a lot of that first movie, I'm like, this is literally, I think I wrote, this is like wedding industrial complex propaganda. It's just like, it's a beautiful wedding. And now they're in this beautiful honeymoon location.
You didn't love them playing chess on Isle Esme?
I didn't, but you know what I did love is that, actually I really loved this scene where she's like about to have sex for the first time and she's like panicking, like trying on lingerie and then trying to like shave her legs and like brushing her teeth like manically because she's like, oh, what the fuck do I do to like be hot? Like I've wanted to fuck for so long and I finally get to. And now that it's here, I don't know what to do. I actually found it really, really sweet. I really like that scene.
It's also amazing like Mormon moments of having a woman who's like super horny. She has sex one time, immediately gets pregnant, and then dies.
Yeah, that's true.
That happens in the book and the movie.
Yeah. But it's funny, like, it wasn't as, like, I expected some more overt kind of, like, if not, like, religious propaganda explicitly, I expected some more overt messaging like that, and it really didn't have a lot. And, like, she's horny for him, like, from the beginning, and, like,
she wants to have sex immediately.
Yeah.
And be turned to a vampire immediately. And he will not do either.
Yeah. And I kind of like that. It doesn't happen very often. I had another example and now I can't remember. But the genre of like, this beautiful girl cannot get this man to fuck her. The movie I was thinking of was Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window.
Until she locks him down.
Yes.
And marries him in extraneously long wedding shit.
Also, that whole thing was so stupid and it had to be for the plot to work, but the whole like, I want to be married and still be human, but we're gonna fuck before I'm like turned, even though we're getting married so that I can become a vampire kind of, you know, like I was like, it was just for plot convenience so that she could be human being pregnant with like this weird vampire baby.
No, it's stupid.
Well, she wants to be a vampire before she has another birthday, and she has to get married first, and she wants to enjoy her honeymoon, I guess.
Yeah.
And she wants to know what it's like before she's a vampire.
Because she has that weird thing about birthdays. Because there's a whole like...
She doesn't want to be too much older than him.
There's
a whole sequence in New Moon where she's like, don't talk to me about my birthday. And everyone's like, happy birthday. Oh, sorry, Bella, I forgot.
I do like, though, the scene. I think it's in one of the Breaking Dawn movies, but it's the one where she has, like, the dream where she's, like, an old woman.
No, that's the first. That's no, that's New Moon.
New Moon.
That's how it starts out, and I love that too. Where she's like, "Oh, Nana's here. Hi, Nana. Meet Edward." And then she's like, "Oh shit, that's me, and I'm an old lady."
It's like, why is Edward like up in my Nana's business?
Yeah.
Oh no, the Nana is calling from inside the house.
I love that scene.
I actually
like the other dream sequences.
I actually like all the dream sequences. Like I like the wedding one where they're like on the pile of corpses of everybody.
Yes, me too. I love that one.
And another scene that I remember seeing in theaters on opening night, because I did end up seeing, I think, every single one of these movies on opening night, was in Breaking Dawn Part 2 when they have the big fight sequence. And then, like, one of them just, like, lifts up Carlisle's decapitated head. And he's like, like, his tongue is, like...
Yes.
Like, he's just, like, so fucked up and dead looking. And it's, like, a weird prop head.
Yes.
And I just remember everyone in the theater just started screaming. Because it's, like, not in the book.
Right.
And it's just like, I think it's clever how to add action to what is an otherwise extraordinarily dull.
I thought it was actually a very clever choice, and I didn't mind it. I thought it was stupid in concept before I watched the movie. And then watching the movie, I was like, actually, I like that they got to have their cake and eat it too and have this big action sequence. But you still get the happy endings for all the characters. Like, actually, I think it's great.
I think it's great because, like, you're reading the book now and you're almost, I mean, you're in that area of the book.
I'm nearly done.
Yeah. Did they do the whole thing where they're all just talking in the field forever?
I'm almost there.
Okay. Because, like, that's a lot of that book is them just, like, exposition and lore dumping, which is such a weird choice for the end of a quadrilogy. Quadrilogy? That's how you say that, right? Is to just have, like, a bunch of lore just, like, dumped. Like, who gives a shit, Stephanie?
You're too late.
Tie it all up.
Wrap that shit up.
So let me know if I just absolutely hallucinated the whole part about them just being shapeshifter indigenous people who happen to be wolves.
I don't think you did.
I think that's real.
I bet it is.
Maybe it was my own dream sequence.
Maybe.
Did it have beautiful symbolism in it?
No. And I do love in New Moon when she starts hallucinating Edward and he's like a ghost.
I was going to talk about that, yeah. Or he's like astral projecting. And then like, okay, the best one, I took a picture of it on my phone because I couldn't believe it, where she like is like cliff diving.
Yeah. Oh.
And she like is in the water. Then she thinks she sees Victoria swimming towards her and she like hits her head on a rock. And then she's like drifting. And then like Edward appears like next to her, but like facing the other way. And it's the two of them just like underwater, just like both like eyes closed, like and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Or like when she comes across the roving rape gang of Forks, Washington, also in New Moon, and she
goes looking for them.
She goes to them.
No, because she is
I said that she
absolutely deranged.
I said that she was the worst friend in the world because it's just she and Anna Kendrick like after a movie, and Anna Kendrick is like in the middle of a sentence, and Bella just like goes look and like sees them and like walks towards him and just like gets on this guy's motorcycle, and Anna Kendrick is just standing on the sidewalk watching her, just like, what the literal fuck are you doing? And Bella just like ditches her in this obviously bad part of town.
Like to look for a gang of rapists.
Yes.
That had
almost raped her in the last movie.
Well.
Oh no.
I'm picking up my copy of Midnight Sun again.
This Pavlovian conditioning is working. Like every time you pick it up, my eyes get bigger and I'm like, oh, put it down.
There is an entire subplot in this book about what Edward wants to do to the rape gang that they encounter in that small town they keep going to. Because he says that, like, before he was a quote-unquote vegetarian who only eats animals, haha, you're very clever, Stephanie, he was, like, a Dexter-type killer. Like, he would just kill, like, bad people.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're trying to make him more likable, but also he is thoroughly unlikable in this book. They just make him so self-loathing that it's, I think her idea is that he just, like, wants to be good and can't be. But I think they end up, it's like him and Carlisle end up, like, kidnapping the guy with, like, chloroform and just, like, putting him in, like, a police cell or something. Something, like, really stupid.
Boring.
But, like, there was a moment where I was like, kill him. Because I just wanted anything to happen in this book.
Yes.
And it refused.
Damn
it refused to have anything happen.
Like, couldn't even, like, rip his dick off. Something.
Anything. I would have taken anything. But instead, just know that rape gang in New Moon was missing one member. Unless he got out of jail. Because there's probably, like, no evidence.
That'll be in Midnight Sun, too.
I can't wait.
Vampire Boogaloo.
I mean, I think she's just going to keep writing these books.
She might as well. I don't even hate that. I mean, I won't be reading them, but good for her. Also, I was watching Breaking Dawn Part 2, and there's all the different vampire covens, and I was like, if this came out today, there would be 15 different spin-offs already greenlit about all of these different covens.
For sure.
Who are your
it
favorites?
is shocking that, of the like various
like randos. Like I love Lee Pace.
Yeah, Lee Pace is probably my
He's
favorite.
Great. Oh, and I also like the guy from that show, The Riches. The one they're like the Slavic, like they hate the Volturi. There's like two of them, and they're super Eastern European. I love them.
And they're mad because they're like, the Volturi are running. Like we need to go kill them right now. And everyone's like, no, it's fine.
Like you guys are so goofy and fun, and they're like, we must kill them.
Yeah, I liked them a lot too.
I can't do accents, but neither could them. So
no, they sure couldn't. But it was like, man, I can't like. This shows restraint on the part of this production company that there weren't a million spin-offs made. Because those movies made a lot of money. And this could have been like a spin-off factory.
And I do want to give another shout out to, I think, another actor that just killed this movie, Michael Sheen.
Yes.
Is that what you were going to say?
Yes, it was. I was going to say I really, really loved having him in these movies. He's the perfect level of hammy, which is to say extremely.
He's also one of the actors that doesn't shit talk this series. Like whenever he's interviewed, he's just like, clearly he had a great time. He has no regrets. He shouldn't.
No, he shouldn't. I'm like, I wouldn't have any regrets if I were him. He's very fun to watch, and I like his character. And
anytime he
livens up any scene he's in.
I would say anytime he is in a scene, the movie becomes less boring in those moments because he just acts like an absolute lunatic.
Yes, he does. He gives the weirdest laugh ever heard.
A titter.
Yes.
I would love the Volturi spinoff.
Me too.
Stop.
I did enjoy the Volturi.
It's like Stephenie Meyer. Stop writing Twilight over and over again and give us some like Volturi spinoff stuff.
Right. And it seems like she even has that inclination with like the vampire backstories that she wrote in the main series.
Oh, and
it's already something that interests her. So why not?
She does backstories constantly.
Right. Get away from Edward.
I think she just loves Edward.
I think she does.
I think she just wants to write about her Edward.
She is Team Edward.
Yeah, she sure is.
Yeah, because definitely watching this as an adult, like almost twice the age I was back then, I'm like, damn, this shit's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like all my notes were like, Jacob is not well. Edward is not well.
We haven't even talked about Jacob imprinting on a literal baby. Like, what do you even say?
Yeah.
What do you even fucking say? It is so insane as a choice.
For those who don't know or haven't seen it, imprinting is like, it's like werewolf, like soulmate, basically. And it's like, it just happens. It's not something you choose. It just like happens to you or whatever.
And there's nothing you can do to change it.
Yeah, so Edward is mad at the baby for killing Bella because he thinks that Bella's like permanently dead. So he literally goes in, at least in the movie, he literally walks into the house like to kill this baby.
Yeah.
But instead, he sees the baby and imprints upon her.
You said Edward, but you mean Jacob.
Jacob, thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Jacob instead sees this baby.
Which is a weird little CGI thing with teeth.
Yes.
It's not as bad as the puppet that has gone super viral.
Yes.
But it's pretty unnerving
I'm glad you brought that up, yes. But yeah, so he like basically falls in love with this baby. And it's like, I'll be her friend and playmate and uncle and protector until she's old enough. And then we're going to be...
thoroughly groomed her into being my perfect wife.
Yes.
But don't worry. I explained this back in Eclipse with his friend Quill, who imprinted on somebody's niece.
Right.
And then at the start of this book is babysitting this niece all by themselves because it's okay, because it's not weird at all.
Renesmee, the most beautiful name.
I mean, and by that movie, they like knew that people, one, hated that imprinting thing and hated the name Renesmee. So they call her like Nessie.
Yes.
And there's that like kind of...
You nicknamed my baby after the Loch Ness Monster?
Which is not in the books because...
It is funny though.
Because like Stephenie Meyer just like, I think just thought it was like really sweet. And she wanted to give Jacob a love interest. And instead of doing the obvious thing, which is you have all of these vampires coming to Forks, just have one of them be palatable for him and not fall in love with a baby and then be like, it's fine, everyone.
But don't worry, she's going to grow really quick.
It's still, it's like, it's
whatever.
just...
Great hair. She just got back from the salon at every second of her life.
She gets a blowout every day.
Every hour on the hour.
I mean, she might. I mean, it doesn't seem like they have anything to do with their time.
No. And they don't sleep.
She sleeps.
Oh, yeah, she sleeps.
Or at least as a baby, she sleeps.
And eats. She can eat human food.
She can, but prefers blood.
My own personal brand of heroin.
Yeah, the whole imprinting is very, very horrible.
It was a bad decision, and it's the one that I think like Stephanie should feel the most bad about.
I agree.
Like
it's the one that you just can't really get past.
I would say it aged poorly, but I don't think it was ever good, and I don't think anyone ever liked it.
No.
So we're already doing our segment, What Do You Loathe? And I think that's like basically the worst thing in the book.
It is by far the worst thing.
It's the wigs, although I like the wigs because they're bad.
Me too, I like that.
But anything about imprinting, I mean, basically all of the Jacob stuff after the second movie, because the second movie has some funny shit.
The love triangle stuff in that one is like, or maybe it's Eclipse.
It's when she goes on the double date with Mike. And Jacob, and they're just sitting between her, and they both have their hands on the chair. Like, that is iconic shit.
It is. It's pretty great.
And the other Jacob stuff I like, just because it's so deranged and funny, is the like body heat scene in the tent where it's like Bella's gonna freeze to death unless Jacob cuddles her.
Edward's like in the cuck chair.
That's what I said. I was like, the cuck tent. Oh my God, then it gets into like the tribal politics of like, oh, this person's the alpha and I need to be the alpha so that we can ally with and I'm like, this is so boring.
I do like the behind the scenes picture where Bella is just petting Taylor Lautner's head.
When he's in his like green screen.
Yeah, they haven't put him in
his morph suit.
He's in his green morph suit, and she's like petting the top of his head. And it's like, okay, like
it's very funny.
That's funny.
Yes.
But in the movie, they're just horrible giant CGI wolves.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Because I'm like, I even get like the inclusion of Jacob and like for the love triangle, fine. But it's just way too much of like, she didn't bother to give the wolves anything interesting to do. Like none of those other characters are developed, and everything about that just sucks.
I mean,
Leah, so boring.
Leah's interesting, I think.
Yes, but then they don't really do anything with it because she's like, please just let me tag along. They have that whole thing where he's like, you need to leave. Like, this is dumb. And she's like, but I want to be helpful. And like, I want you to be my alpha. And like, no one ever wants me around. Keep a lid on it, Eponine.
On my own. But I am imagining a funny scene where like they're wolves and she's like Eponine, like being cradled in the arms of another wolf. And she's just singing little fall of rain.
Little fall of rain.
In Forks with all the rain pouring. That'd be good.
That would be good.
But that's not what we got.
No, it's not.
So that's what we loathe, but let's talk about what's gay.
Okay. My read on it was, I'm like, does Carlisle have a touch of the gay?
A little bit.
Because he's like turning, like, he turned Edward, and I'm like, I know that like he turns all of them, so it's a little different.
He didn't turn them all. So why do I have this in my head?
That's another thing I loathe.
He did
your deep knowledge.
He didn't turn Jasper. He didn't turn Alice, but he did turn Edward, Esme. I believe he turned Rosalie, right?
I think so. When she got raped to death, which is her backstory.
Whatever the reverse is of good for her.
Yes.
But then she gets a good for her because she kills all those guys.
She does, and it is great. That revenge is good.
And then he turns Emmett, which is in detail in Midnight Sun, for Rosalie.
Doesn't she like bring him to Carlisle?
Yes. She finds him. He had been hiking and got mauled by a bear. And because everything has to be over-explained to death, that's why he likes hunting bears.
Stop.
It's all so over-explained in this piece of shit book.
You really do stink.
I mean, I'd say like a lot of the vampires seem a little bit like bi.
Yes.
Like, I think there's a reason why like the gay Zoomers love Twilight so much, because everyone's acting just like a little bit gay.
This series is full of it. Even like the tension between like Jacob and Edward at times, where I'm like, I think they just need to hate fuck and get it out of their system and like move on.
And like, I don't know, like all the Cullens living together in like a big like orgy house.
Exactly.
I actually agree 100%.
Pansexual, polyamorous, like, yeah.
I agree with Anna Kendrick in the first movie where she's like, it's weird.
Yeah.
Because like Angela's like, they're not blood related. And she goes, it's weird, you know, still.
And you know what? She's right, as she is about everything else, and she should say it.
You're beautiful. I think like besides all the thing we already talked about that we loathe about the series, I think it's very stupid that they go to high school. I know that they have to have him meet Bella, but it makes no sense for them.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, like they can literally just pretend to be homeschooled. They could be homeschool weirdos.
I fully agree with you, and that's...
But I will say...
Also, I like the because they have that like art of the graduation caps in
like
their house, and and Bella's parents are walking up, and the mom's like, "Oh, that's so cool, like so creative." And Charlie's just like, "Oh, it's fucking weird."
Yeah. I forgot that we were supposed to be doing the Is It Gay, and I'm just going back to things I loathe because I'm so funny.
Do it.
Oh, it's so like...
There's tons of stuff that I love and loathe that I didn't get to, but we'll save it for part 3.
There's a movie...
We'll have an annual Twilight episode.
There's a movie I've done a screening of called The Last Vampire on Earth, where the Edward character goes to community college. And it's not supposed to be funny, but I do think that's like a funny satire, even though, again, it's not meant to be satire. But like... having them all be high school students who just go through high school all the time. Like, no wonder...
Well, and in that one, he's been alive for like thousands of years and he like met Jesus.
Yes.
In The Last Vampire on Earth.
That I do recommend that movie.
Me too. That's a fun one.
Yeah,
and it is Twilight.
It is.
It is literally a remake of Twilight.
And they re-released it with the blue color grading, so you can get that version.
I have so much shade in my notes and it is so funny looking back. I talk about the like fight with Victoria in Eclipse and I said, bad fight. BDH does not bring it.
She does not.
Oh my gosh.
Something a lot of people hate is in the book when Jacob kisses Bella, she punches him and breaks her hand. And Charlie says, "Good for you," to Jacob.
I like Charlie because I feel like, at least in the movies, he's like trying really hard to be a good dad. And he's not good at it, but he's really giving it so much effort.
He's so out of his depth.
Yes, but I find it very sweet that he like tries to like connect with her and keep her safe. And when she sleeps for like a year, but like with intermittent screaming, when she's so depressed in New Moon.
New Moon is unhinged.
And I was like, this is better and worse than the first one.
I read New Moon a lot less than I read the other books.
Yeah.
It's a bummer, but I think it really captures the extraness of teenage love.
I appreciated that and all the parallels with Romeo and Juliet, even though it was so belabored, but it's a good comparison because it's about how extreme those emotions of first teenage love are. Still a better love story than Twilight, but...
Romeo and Juliet, you think? That one I may give you. Okay, so going back to the gay.
Okay, yes.
We'll give it its rankings.
Oh yeah, I think I have them for each movie.
I'm gonna do it overall, I guess.
Yeah, just do it overall.
Well, it's at least 2.5, at the very least 2.5 Rainiers out of 5. Because it's vampire, so it's at least, to me, it's at least half gay.
I think it's like a solid 50%.
Okay.
It's like Renesmee. It's half straight and half gay.
And it also, like Renesmee, it's an abomination.
Yes.
That should not be
it's an abomination that actually should have been killed by the Volturi.
Okay, I think the first one I have, it's like 2 failed artsy shots out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Second one, for gay, I said, I don't know what I was thinking, but I really said some stuff here. But I said, gay, 73 ominous red robes out of 300.
I do love the weird.
I love the weird like
scene.
celebration in Italy. Yeah, the robe scene.
It would have been cool if there was more of that, huh?
Eclipse. Oh yeah, this one I didn't give it out of anything, but I said it's 7 pairs of jorts gay.
It's pretty gay.
That one I felt was very gay. And then Breaking Dawn Part 1, I said no. 1 styrofoam cup of human blood out of 7.
Yeah.
And then the last one, I think I maybe forgot about, but that one was really gay. So that's like 9, this is not correct, but 9 Lee Pace's abs out of 10.
I mean, it's possible. If anyone has a 10 pack,
right?
it's probably Lee Pace.
Pretty damn gay.
I mean, all the Volturi.
Overall, probably like a 5 out of 10, something like that.
I think all the
6.
Volturi are gay.
Yeah, they're very, very gay coded.
Can I close us out with an embarrassing confession?
Please.
When I was in high school and I still thought I was going to have kids, I wanted to name one of them Carlisle. All right.
I guess.
Are we done?
Yeah, I guess so.
Where
We've
do
talked
we find
about
us?
we've talked about Twilight for like 3 hours.
And I could still talk about it more. Guys,
I have several topics.
I liked it way more than I thought I was going to. Watching these movies,
happy.
I actually really like, as silly and like goofy and bad as like elements of it are. And one of the things I liked is like Bella, almost like what she's more attracted to is herself becoming a vampire.
Yes.
And like she's not good at anything in life until she finds being a vampire, and then she is really good at that. She is like amazing self-control.
Guys, we have to stop talking about Twilight. We have to stop.
Right.
It ends tonight.
It ends tonight.
It's like 9 p.m. We've been here talking about Twilight.
Fine. Me and my 5-movie pack are out of here.
I'll talk about it with you later, but we just cannot keep. We're going to keep going.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Where can people find us?
We have an email. You can email us your Twilight fan theories.
Actually, please do.
That one we're actually down for. queerandloathingpod@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at queerandloathingpod. We all have letterboxes. You can find those on Letterboxd.
I'm at 666 bitch.
I am at hater tot, like a tater tot, but a hater, one word.
And I'm Samantha. And I'm Samantha.
And someday Samantha will use her Letterboxd and put anything on there.
Well, yeah, so that's... Oh, God, put the book down. Mel picked up Midnight Sun again. Well, then, until next time, I'm queer.
I'm Loathing.
And I'm Samantha.
Where the hell you been, Loca? I was a predator. She was my prey. There was nothing else in the whole world but that truth. There was no room full of witnesses. They were already collateral damage in my mind. The mystery of her thoughts was forgotten. Her thoughts meant nothing, for she would not go on thinking them much longer. I was a vampire, and she had the sweetest blood I smelled in more than 80 years. I hadn't imagined that such a scent could exist. If I'd known it did, I would have gone searching for it long ago. I would have scoured the planet for her. I could imagine the taste.
Huh.
I hate Midnight Sun.